Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Total Recall podcast, a podcast purely for startup founders, for people looking to start businesses up and learn about that process of setting up a tech company, scaling up a tech company, and all of the trials and tribulations that come with it. I'm pretty excited to introduce somebody that I've met many times now in Israel, and is often kind enough to share the office space with me when I do go there. So a very exciting startup coming out of Israel, Configu. It's a pleasure to have you here, Peleg, and to talk to us today.
Thanks, Will. Hey, everyone. I'm Peleg. Thanks, Will, for hosting me. It's a real pleasure to be here. After all our meetings, I guess it was natural.
It's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring you on, dude, because recently you've raised another round of funding. I think in seed funding now you've raised in two separate parts. So I kind of just want to talk about your startup, Configu. Obviously, there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of ups and downs in terms of getting through. I suppose testing, is my idea actually legit in the first instance before you can get to pitch it to a VC, to a funder. So do you mind just kind of giving us a little bit of a flavor, if you will, like that process for any potential startup founder listening who thinks they've got an idea, who think like, I've got something here. How did you come to the idea of a tech for Configu, and talk us through the tech, if you don't mind?
Sure. Maybe I'll introduce myself first. It will be related to my journey. So I'm Peleg, 29, almost 2 years old, living in Israel. Started as a keyboard kid. Love technology, love to solve any problem that I'm meeting, and basically started Configu 2 years ago after being a decade software developer, DevOps engineer, system, a bit of everything. Most of my time I'm doing code, and in the past 2 years I switched to the business, still coding from time to time, but leading a dev tool company. So I guess it's something in the middle between business and coding. I want to think that I'm smarter now after 2 years in business. So if I
You
need
feel
to,
older, no doubt. You feel older.
no, not sure about the older part, but yeah, I want to think that I'm smarter each day from the day before. I guess that if you ask me how to start and find an idea for a startup, I guess ideation is a big part of it. Like, it's a big step, very, very important step. You need to identify a need, and it sounds big, but the only like the first thing that you need to do is to decide who I want to sell to. Like, I want to sell to developers, for example, in Configu, and then I need to understand what are the challenges that developers are facing. If I understand what the challenges they are facing, and I understand what is enough challenging them so they will pay for it, there you go. You have a need, you have a problem that you can think, can I fix it? Can I solve it? Is the first step. If I think about my journey, I founded this Configu with a good friend of mine called Ron. He's Configu's CTO, and I cannot really say that this was like classic. We did an ideation, and we was two tech guys who really like to talk about tech, and I was low-level security engineer, mostly developed in Python and Go. And Ran was high-level full-stack JavaScript developer. Although both of us are developer, we faced different problems. Like, full-stack JavaScript have their own problems and challenges. Go have different ones. And although we are coming from different backgrounds, we face the same configuration issues over and over and over. So we're very frustrated from this issue with the configurations, and we started to discuss it internally. me and him, and then with some friends of ours, and we understood that it's a real problem, no matter which coding language you are developing, which frameworks, which company. It doesn't really matter. All of our friends, including us, suffered from the same problem. So we decided to take it to the next level, and we met at the beginning 20 companies, friends of a friends of a friends, doing a validation step by step, and around 100 companies, which was a kind of a benchmark. Like we started to meet VCs, not for getting funding. We still didn't have anything, but to know the business a bit more, and someone through that. First of all, meet 100 B2B companies, meet your target who you want to sell to, validate it. If most of them, or at least a big percent of them, will verify this problem, you should know that you're in the right direction. And this was the beginning. So for us, it was a first-hand challenge, but most of the time, if you ask me, do a good ideation. Like start, no matter if it's your own problem or someone that told you about his problem. Ask yourself who I want to sell to, and then figure out what this person need from me and what he's going to pay for.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I actually read a good book recently about it. It's called the Mom Test. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's
definitely,
yeah, it's a good book.
It's a must-have. It's a must-have.
And I think that's where I think a lot of people that have great ideas go and ask their friends, their family, their mom. To use the example of the book, and everybody says it's a great idea. It's a great idea, but they don't get asked to pay for it. It's just a great idea. And then somebody goes and spends 10, 20, 30, $40,000 on production, getting something live. And there's not a market there. So did you first try and get people to pay for it? Did you put a price on it first, or a price later down the line? How did you come to that? What people will pay for your SaaS application? How did you get to that point?
I guess at the beginning I was bad. Like I didn't have the qualifications to do it or do it good. We just started with it. Both of us developers, we just start to develop. Again, another mistake. I guess in a like if I was thinking about it today, I was doing the validation, and after ideation, and after that validation, and only then I will maybe develop some mock-ups or something and try to sell them to the ICP first before any line of code. But to developers, what we knew. We start to develop a POC. We start showing it to companies. I guess in the middle of the journey with the 100 first companies, we started showing them some demos, and in kind of the same time we read the Mom Test. It was really helpful. If you never read it already, please, it will change your way and how you sell things. So yeah, we started to develop. We developed POC. First of all, it was kind of a feature. I guess most of the people start with one feature, and then you try to explain how it's going to explode and why your product is not a feature, it's a real product, because you cannot develop a fully functional product in a day, and you cannot develop, I don't know, a massive mock with all the details. So we start with something very specific. My recommendation, start with the most painful and narrow it to what people want to pay for. But we start with a POC that examines our issues and how we solved it. And again, don't get in love in your product, never. Like, not in your POC, not in your technology. Get in love in your problem. Like, you want to solve it, and most of the times, or maybe in our case, most of the beginning, it was a bad technology. Like, we developed something, and then we heard from, I don't know, dozens of customers or potential customer, no, we actually need it to be like that. So we change it. So we change it, and across the way, along the way, we change it to be like an open source. So it was a real difficult choice. We open sourced most of the technology. It's changed.
And so, do you think where it is now, it's obviously been through many variants of iteration. Has that iteration come from customer feedback? Because, like you say, you perhaps focus more on the product than the problem, or has it come from, you know, just you knowing that the tech needs to evolve because you're doing the code?
I guess we're a special beast because we're both our customers. Like, I'm the product and the customer of myself. My developers who's developed Configu are also the customers of Configu because we're using Configu for ourselves. It's also raised some funny stuff like, did you ever thought how GitHub use GitHub, and then if GitHub has a bug, how GitHub is unavailable and they can fix it?
That's interesting. That's a good point.
There are many funny issues with dev tools, like Configu is using Configu, and we had to find like interesting or innovative solution how we can use ourselves without being depending on ourselves. So I guess it's in any product you need to develop everything by customer feedback, or even build your roadmap using your feedback from customer, because at the beginning you have only yourself and you just, oh, I think this is the good direction. It's good for the first line, but then from the second line that you are writing in your notebook, it's have to be related to customer feedback because they are the buyers.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had this conversation a couple of days ago with one of the product designers, one of the first product designers in Dropbox, and he was talking to me through the process that he went through when first launching their Dropbox product. When it was a case of they built the suggestion, or the, like you said, the POC, the demo of what this thing can do, put it out there to see if they could get people to sign up to it and to even pay for it in the first instance. And once they got to a certain amount of people that, you know, demonstrated that they had a problem to solve, they then built the product, which I thought was, you know, was quite interesting. So I suppose it kind of, there's a million ways to go about it, isn't it? But the way that you're suggesting there is to not spend a load of money and time and effort in dev, to then have to come back and spend a load more time, money and effort in redevelopment of the same product, when you could just focus more on the problem and what customers actually want and fit a product into that.
Yeah, I will take it a step further. Like a year ago, I went to see a meetup of tech entrepreneurship, and there was one panelist. He's a co-founder and he have company, and he said that at the beginning, before he founded the company, the way he validated the need, he created a fully functional mock that he can record and create a video from, and he launched it to Product Hunt without any product, any real product, without a company, without nothing. He just launched it into a Product Hunt. He created a WordPress website, and waiting list, and just launched it. And it got crazy. And this was the validation. Like, you got a wait list who want to buy this product, and then he developed it.
Nice.
And it works.
Yeah, nice. It's an interesting. Well, I think it's a good way to go about it. The reason I read the mom test myself is because I'm trying to do something similar with a SaaS application, and that's the exact process that I'm going through with it, is to build almost a landing page and a demo on this landing page and a waiting list for people to sign up to. So it's really interesting to see how many different people come about approaching the market differently, but it seems there's a bit of a playbook that a lot of startups are following, that I know anyway, especially in Israel, who I've spoken to this last week. And how do you now see, because you've obviously got some customers now on board and people that are happy users of Configu, how is it further going to develop? What are customers saying is so good about your product, and how perhaps you can iterate it further?
I think the right question is, or what the question we're ask ourselves is all of our users use Configu at the same use case? Like, if you have a use case or you released a product and then each one of your customers use the product differently, maybe to solve different problem, maybe it's a same problem but different use case, you are wrong, and you need to focus. You need to make sure that all of your users understand what you are solving. Maybe like that you will understand if they need it. Maybe you will see that they're using it wrong. I'm not sure, but I think Dropbox had this issue at the beginning. They target something and then they switch it because they saw that their users using it differently. Not sure if it was Dropbox, but I think you need to verify that you have a problem that you want to solve, solution that you believe it is the most innovative, most, the best solution in the market, because there are going to be competitors. If you don't have competitors, stop and ask yourself why no one wants to solve this issue. And if you have competitors, it's a good sign, but you need to ask yourself, why am I better than them? And do my user understand my use case? And if all of them checked, you need to ask yourself what's going to help them farther. Like, I have these things, and naturally they will ask and demand more things. Like, no matter like the channel you choose, either if it's open source or maybe issues on GitHub, or if it's a classic B2B, it's going to be a channel between the product manager and potential customer, current customer, design partners, maybe, depend on the stage. And you need to listen. Like, they are going to pay for it. Listen what they need, what they want.
So with that feedback that you've now got, obviously the feedback has changed significantly from a year ago to the customers, what they're saying about your technology now. What's the biggest pain point? So if you imagine that there's an SRE listening, or if the platform engineer is listening, or there's a cloud engineer listening, what is your kind of message to them? Like, if you're struggling with this, Configu, that's why we made it. What's the very precise thing that Configu solves for them?
Amazing. So I didn't have a chance or forgot to explain about Configu. So Configu is a configuration management in the application layer. We're more focusing on application. There are many good solutions for infrastructure that we like, but not enough for application layer. And the real problem that we're solving or aiming to solve is that today application configuration are too fragmented across too many different solutions. Like under application configuration, you can find secret manager, environment variables, feature flags, and too many other that are fragmented across too many environments, too many solutions. It could be files over your GitHub, it could be databases, and then you have two secret managers and feature flag solution, and maybe a microservice that you wrote yourself. And Configu can orchestrate and manage the entire mechanism of managing configuration. Like it can seamlessly, really seamlessly. You don't need even to log in or having credentials. We're using the native authorization system. Like if you're using AWS Secret Manager, AWS Parameter Store, or etc., we will use your IAM file, or if you're using HashiCorp Evolve, we'll use the environment variables that you already use for Hashi. We can use them, and then we are giving you a single interface. It could be CLI, or take it to the next level with an SDK, and you can manage all of them by using a single command. So the second one can simplify and empower the developer to understand better, be safe and secured from making mistakes, from typo to testings, and they can use it to save their configurations in Hashi, in AWS, in their Git repository, over files, over database, or using the Configu Cloud platform, which can take it to the next level. All of that on top of technology that we adapted from infrastructure as a code to configuration as code, which is really, really simple for developers to use. And of course, we have the cloud platform, which aiming for DevOps engineers who want to control everything in their own organization.
And I suppose that's more prevalent now, because I think what I've seen in the last few years in talking to as many dev engineers, full stack engineers, cloud engineers that I do day by day, I think there's so much noise in infrastructure now, in tools that are being used across various infrastructures, that I think now the timing is right for these dev departments, these engineering departments, especially where it's leaner now. You know, a lot of engineering departments have been scaled back ever so slightly. And as such, I think there's a lot more open-minded approaches now to using something like Configu as a single pane view of managing all of the tools in one go. I honestly, when I talk to full stack engineers, my mind is blown how they manage all of the all of the tools that they have to use across all of those kind of different variables. And do you think that is perhaps where a big problem solver is coming now in the market the way it is with something like Configu?
Yeah. First of all, thanks. But yeah, it's something changed in the past decade. Like a decade ago, most of the tools was like infrastructure, and the DevOps only started to raise. Like a decade ago, there was a DevOps, but still all the cloud, all the shifting, continuous deployment, agile, and everything started in the past decade. So it's increased so dramatically and fast, and it opened a new world for products like Configu and others, either if it's in the infrastructure domain or in other domains. For example, we focused on the application sides because the beginning of this evolution was to focus on infrastructure, which created a whole bunch of great tools from Terraform with all the current changes with Hashi to all the other great tools in infrastructure. And now I think that our problem, our passion was to the application layer, the layer between the developer and the DevOps, and we fixed this one.
Nice. And how do you think then to further iterate this tech? Because tech is it's exploding with AI, with automation tools. How do you think automation or AI is going to change the game now for devs in like production environments, in test environments, in application development environments? How is it going to change here?
I think automation is the key. Like we are developers, and I think developer is by definition a lazy a lazy human being. Like we're coding things to not doing them twice. So the key here is automation, and we want to automate everything. If there is something that we need to do more than once, we will automate it from CI/CD pipelines to everything that we we realize we can do automatically. And I think it's important. It's a future from dev domain and dev tools that automate everything for developers to automation in medicine. I don't know, healthcare. Any aspect automation is important. It's the key. Most of the tools are in charge of the automation part of manual processes, and AI is crazy. I think it's too early to understand the full power and potential. We're only at the beginning of the era of the AI. It's different because when you're thinking about entrepreneurship and creating a startup, it's already too late for AI because it's yesterday buzz. But for the end customer, for the B2C end user that's using AI, it's amazing era. Like you use it for marketing, you use it for write things, for editing, you use it for everything. You can write mails and answer. Today, I discussed with someone about the implemented ChatGPT over their documentations, and then they have a AI agent that answer their customers as a first-tier support. And ask, how do I do that one? How do I do something? And it answered them from the doc. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I don't know if you've ever played with ChatGPT Playground. If you log into ChatGPT Playground, you can program your own brain into this playground, and it will have a conversation and impersonate you almost with the information you give it. It's wild. I'm actually setting up a chatbot, an AI chatbot for Rekall's website that will answer hundreds and hundreds of questions around us. It's an exciting time. I think unfortunately it's going to harm some industries in tech. I think about software testing and I've seen Google's new coding AI platform that's come out, which apparently is like outrageously strong. I think some industries have to adapt quickly, and some industries have to try and absorb it into their practices. Otherwise, they face extinction almost. So it is a really interesting time for sure. I think once over the next 6 to 12 months we get a grip on AI and where it's going to take us, I think the world of tech is going to look very different. So I now research daily AI trends and updates just to see and keep my business ahead of falling behind my competition. They're using AI and they're getting competitive advantage. I can't afford that, and any startup can't, no.
Like evolution, you need to adapt. Like there is a new technology, you need to adapt. You need to know how to leverage it. I'm not sure that every product is fit to combine with AI. For example, for Configu, we can't see right now how we can offer an AI as part of our process. I'm not sure that it's really a right move to combine AI, but we are using AI as part of technology challenges that we're doing. Like if you want to scan a code base, it's a really hard algorithm, but you can use AI for scanning a code base and get the result that you need. So we are using AI, but we're not offering AI as part of our product officially. You need to know how to leverage it.
Of course. I think it's a dangerous tool, if not, especially when when you've got any kind of security element of your platform secrets management, all these kind of things that you see out there in the news at the moment. It's very, very risky to get that wrong and trust completely in AI. If you take some customer sensitive data and AI gets the code on and then it's leaked, you're in big trouble. So yeah, it's interesting times, dude. And I think, I'm always interested to kind of hear, I suppose, what your plans are now. You've got a startup, you've done a fantastic job. Getting 2 rounds of funding in the economy as it is this year is a great achievement, one you should be very proud of. You've obviously built a fantastic technology that people want. But what's next? Where do you take it from now in your kind of seed round of funding or in pre-seed to the next stage? What does the next stage look like? How do you get there? What's Configu in a year's time?
We are great believers in community. I think any dev tool who want to be here for a long time need a community and believers. First believers and then the followers, believers. And now we're focusing how to expand Configu and just give the most important thing that we are developing is the open source. Most of our roadmap and feature that we're releasing are on the open source and not on the cloud platform. So we have customers for the cloud platform and it's quite stable. And of course, we're keeping moving and having a roadmap and defining a roadmap with our customers. But we always keeping the open source and the community first for this stage, and I hope it will keep for a long time. We're getting lots of love from developers, from DevOps engineers, either if it's contributors to people who opens bug and issues, or just using Configu and then tell you, yeah, I already use Configu. It's amazing. I built Configu not to sell it someday. Yeah, it's natural, and I'm not. I cannot know what the future will bring, but I built Configu to change the way people or other people are using and suffering from configuration, and I want to change things. Like every time that I'm hearing from someone, yeah, I'm using Configu, or seeing that he used Configu or she used Configu as a developer, it's crazy, and this is the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing.
Nice. And I see you often celebrate your contributors as well, through your social media. So obviously, you've got a very big community approach to what you're doing with Configu, and I think that's important to the development community. When I'm talking to dev community in America, Europe, wherever it may be, when I'm trying to build an engineering team, I often find it interesting how they digest content, how they become interested in using a new tool. And it's always, community based. They're always saying, well, I saw another developer was having a similar problem to me, so I didn't talk to a salesperson. I just saw the problem that was being solved by this person, so I tried it myself and it was great, and I passed that forward to somebody else, and I said to somebody else I know, you should try this if you're having this problem. It's a real sense of community, right?
Yeah, you need to get love from developer. I'm even I will take it a step further. I heard from a manager, the VP R&D, who told me, yeah, the demo was nice, and I even have the issues. I will use and buy Configu only after I will hear 2, 3, 4 developers in my team who will ask Configu because they use it and love it. And then you understand, okay, so everything is great, but developers need to love it. And in dev tools, a domain, you have to be simple to use. You have to be without bullshit, like just give them, and then they will love the product. And then you can monetize and do any business on top of that. But create a real value without bullshit.
Nice, and I think that's a nice message to finish on. I think I've taken enough of your time. It's quite late for you, but I think a lot of our our community for Rekall Consulting is the dev community. You know, we do a lot of work in the development community with dev first companies. And it's really nice to share a message with our community, whether it's, you know, a podcast or a YouTube video that helps them. You know, and that's why I like to make these videos with someone like yourself who loves to share knowledge, you know, and ask for nothing in return. And I think that's what makes a good startup. You know, not just trying to ram something down someone's throat, but trying to make a community-based business where it helps others, and the universe will pay in kind. You know, it will come back to you at some point, right?
Definitely. You need to learn how to listen. If you cannot listen and learn from others, you are in a real problem. But then
you sound like my wife now.
but then you need to know how to share and give for the younger people who's coming after you. Everyone needs support, community, someone to share and get feedback from. Choose someone who did it right a second before. Like, if you're creating a startup or thinking how can I create startup, don't choose a like round D founder mentor. Choose someone who just raised a seed or a pre-seed. And then you will go step by step together. He will always be a step ahead of you and will be relevant for your questions.
It's good advice. That's really good advice. And I'm sure, knowing you as I do, you know, you wouldn't be against somebody reaching out to you who's trying to raise seed funding. So I'm sure if there's any, you know, founders or want to be founders listening with a great idea, I'll put Peleg's details, the link to his LinkedIn in the comments below. Peleg, it's great to talk to you, bro, man. I always enjoy talking to you. I'm going to let you go enjoy your evening. Probably ended up looking at my shiny bald head. So it's been a pleasure, dude. I look forward to seeing you. I'm in Israel in 3 or 4 weeks, so I'll come and see you for a coffee.
Amazing. Coffee on me. Coffee on me. Well, it's also always a pleasure to meet and talk with you, you know. And if you never heard or use Rekall, I recommend on it. So
you're a good man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Will.
It's my pleasure, man. I'll see you soon.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.